Hello and welcome to my review of Kill la Kill the game, IF. P-Cube Games sent me a PS4 code and that's the version I'll be reviewing. The game is also coming out on Switch and PC on July 26th, and I expect those versions to be pretty similar, though with fighting games, I always find the experience to be somewhat worse on the Switch, simply because most of the player base is connected to the internet via Wi-Fi, and that makes the online a bit worse than the other platforms. So with that in mind, let's jump into the review. Kill la Kill IF is a 3D arena fighter inspired by the Kill la Kill anime and manga. In this game, you'll be able to pick a character and fight against others in multiple stages taken from the show. You'll be able to go through the story mode, play local or online versus, or even some offline challenges like survival or the covers challenge. And all of that uses the 3D arena combat system that we'll analyze before diving into the different game modes. In Kill la Kill, every character is able to move freely around the stage. You can jump around, sidestep, do homing dashes, things you typically see in a lot of arena fighters. Everyone has a close range attack button, a long range attack button, and a guard break. And these can be extremely unique depending on the character you pick. The roster is small, there are only 10 characters to choose from, with 2 more free DLC coming later, which brings us to a total of 12 characters. It's not an impressive number for a fighting game, but every character is truly unique. There may be some characters with a similar playstyle, but even they have different strengths and weaknesses that would make you choose one character over the other, and that force you to play the game differently, not only depending on the character you pick, but also depending on the character you fight against. This is where Kill la Kill IF shines bright above many other arena fighters. The characters don't play the same, even their fundamentals are different, their movement speed varies, their health pool, some even have extra meters to complement their own gimmicks, and this makes learning a new character something meaningful, something that gives the game its longevity, because their combo routes will be different, the way they move around the stage will be different, the way they try to control their opponent is different. And some characters are no joke to learn. The game has its fair share of beginner-friendly characters where you can mash your way to victory and achieve some satisfying results, but with others, you gotta dive deeper into their mechanics and dig out their strengths because mashing won't get you very far. Below your own health bar, you have a special meter, and this can be used for special attacks, as you would expect, but it can also be used for a mechanic that's fairly unique to this game, called Bloody Valor. If you hit your opponent with this, it triggers a rock, paper, scissors minigame that can result in powering up your character, and if you're successful in doing it 3 times, you gain access to this instant kill move that just wins the match. This Bloody Valor mechanic seems like it's just pure luck at first, but when you look into it, it's all about reading your opponent. Each option gives the player who initiated this minigame a different benefit. They can heal themselves, get special meter, or deal damage to you. So they're not picking their option at random, they are choosing what benefits them the most, and it's up to you to figure out what that is. Of course, they can make the read and think you're gonna counter them and then go for something else. It's just layers upon layers, but the point is, it may feel random, but even this rock, paper, scissors move can be read. The stages also have a big impact on how the fight will go. There are no stage hazards or anything of the sort, they are just very different in terms of size and shape. Zoners will definitely benefit from playing in a bigger stage, rushdown characters will benefit from playing in a narrow stage, especially if they can make good use of wall splats. Certain attacks will splat a character against a wall, which allows you to extend combos, and extending combos is just devastating. Health bars just melt. However, this game does have a combo breaker mechanic. The same burst that you use to start the rock, paper, scissors mechanic can be used to get out of any combo. It will not trigger the rock, paper, scissors minigame if used defensively, but it will still spend your 2 bars of meter and lock your meter gain for quite some time. On the other hand, it can save you from dying. So this game encourages you to use your meter offensively a lot, which means using this burst to break a combo is a very strategic choice. You are sacrificing a lot of damage or a permanent character buff just to get out of a combo. So it's not the type of game where people should be spamming that every time you touch them. They should be definitely doing it when they get caught in a high damage combo. But if someone's spamming this out of panic just because they got touched, well, then you've got nothing to be scared of. Those players will never have the meter to deal a lot of damage. It's a combat system that utilizes some familiar mechanics in 3D arena fighters, with the homing dashes, the aerial combos, the sidestepping, all of that, and at the same time it has a bunch of unique mechanics that give it a very unique feel, topped off with a unique moveset for each character. This makes Kill la Kill a new staple for arena fighters. It proves that arena fighters don't have to be repetitive button mashing games where all the characters play in a similar way. It proves that it is possible to make a competitive game in this genre and still have it be a ton of fun. The only problem I had with this system were the occasional camera issues. They don't happen very often, but sometimes when you're fighting a bigger character, they can just completely hide you with their huge body, making it hard to react to whatever you're doing, because you don't know how far away from them you are. And I guess the roster is small. 10 characters at launch, 2 more coming out later as free DLC, makes it a 12 character roster, and that isn't that impressive, though I will take 12 unique characters over 60 characters that kinda play the same any day of the week. And now that you understand the game a bit better, let's dive into story mode. I can't show you much of story mode, and if you've played the demo, you've already seen all of this footage. But what I can say is that it retains this quality throughout the entire thing. You will play the Kill la Kill story from the perspective of Satsuki. Most of the events that happen throughout the story are the same events as the anime, only it happens very quickly, as if someone was sitting on the fast forward button on the remote. It skips some events, others are just quickly mentioned in cutscenes, and because of this, you need to have watched the show to enjoy the story mode. The events it skips, it assumes you know what happened, it assumes you know them. And the game even starts midway through Season 1, so the setting isn't perfectly laid out if you're new to Kill la Kill. And this is because this game is trying to tell an alternate story. Most of the events are the same as the anime, yes, but towards the end things change drastically and paint the whole story in a different light. Not only the game's story, but the anime story as well. So I fully recommend you watch Season 1 of Kill la Kill if you're planning on playing this game. Story mode isn't very long. Satsuki's story takes about 90 minutes to finish, at which point you unlock Ryuko's story, which is a bit longer than that, bringing the total play time of story mode to 3.5 hours, give or take. And story mode is not optional. When you first launch the game, you'll see every other game mode is locked. Only after you beat the tutorial episode do you unlock some of them. Online play, for instance, is only unlocked after you beat Chapter 6. Ranked gameplay is completely locked until you finish Satsuki's story. And even after you beat Satsuki's story, you still have to play Ryuko's to unlock all the characters. So even though it is short, maybe because it's mandatory, might be a good thing. And you can beat it even faster if you skip all the cutscenes, which are fully voiced and animated. Both English and Japanese dubs are available in the options menu, and unlike many other anime games, there are no moments where you just have an image still or a character just standing there with text scrolling by. No, everything has camera work, everything has animation work, everything is voiced. They are proper cutscenes, similar to the ones I'm showing right now, similar to the ones you've played in the demo. And it utilizes a mix of music licensed from the show and original music that fits the tone perfectly. A lot of fan favorite themes are present in story mode. They won't be playing in versus or online, but they are in the game, and outside of story mode you can unlock them in the gallery if you just want to listen to them. And story mode isn't just good because of cutscenes and because it tells an alternate story that could actually be canon. I think the author confirmed the story in the game is actually canon, but how could that be if the events are different from the show? Well, play and find out, I guess. I'm not going to spoil it. It does use a popular gimmick to pull that off that I wasn't a big fan of, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you the story is amazing. More or less. But story mode itself was still very enjoyable, and part of that, it's because it's not just a series of battles. They do things in story mode that you cannot replicate in other game modes. Sure, you have the occasional 1v1 fight, and you fight some covers, which is also another game mode that we'll talk about in a second. But then you have a lot of surprises. Early on, you fight in a 1v2 battle, for instance. You've got characters in story mode that aren't playable in player matches at all, perhaps because they are straight up broken, but that makes for a fun story mode, and I won't spoil more than that. I've said enough. It's a good story mode, perhaps a bit short, and some people will be happy it's short because a lot of features are locked behind it, but I disagree with that choice. Locking some stuff behind the first chapters would be fine, but having to beat the whole thing with Satsuki and Ryuko to unlock all the game modes and all the characters, in a fighting game, that's just not a good option. Some people are just going to buy this for the online, so I don't think this bad decision is any excuse. It is a fighting game at its core, and a short story mode, especially when it's this good, it's not a big issue for me personally. Let's move on to the online. You get player matches when you beat Satsuki's Chapter 6, and this is where you can play casual matches. You can try to find someone to fight with online, or just directly invite a friend of yours. You can set up some restrictions like what type of battles are you looking for and what connectivity restrictions you want, and then just go, find a partner and play some matches. After a match is over, there is no rematch button, but the game does go back to the online room you created pretty fast, so the time between matches isn't that long. And then you've got online ranked, which is unlocked once you beat Satsuki's story. When you first enter ranked, you'll have 1500 points or life fiber threads. From the very start, if you lose a match, you lose points. If you win a match, you gain points. So it is a true ranked system. It's not just a grind because you always gain more points than you lose. These points are attached to a rank, the first one being 1-star 3rd class soldier. So you can aim to get a better rank along with getting more points, which is always nice when ranks have these sort of titles. Makes me feel more accomplished when I finally rank up, whereas if it was just numbers, it would just constantly go up and you wouldn't have that moment of saying, oh, I made it to the next level. There are a few downsides though. One, you cannot see how your connection to your opponent is before accepting a match. You can set up some restrictions with matchmaking, and that includes the connectivity, but you guys know how Wi-Fi works. It's fine one moment, so it goes through those filters, and then it just drops drastically and you've got a nightmare of a match in your hands. And two, there are no rematches. You play one fight and you come back to matchmaking. Given how fast some kill-a-kill matches go, I wish Ranked gave us a chance to play a best of 3 sets at the very least. Currently, there are also a few bugs with the point system. Sometimes we got errors where the match simply didn't count, but even when it did, the points shown in the lobby are different from the ones shown in a match. Sometimes I got a huge winning streak and wasn't getting any points, wasn't ranking up. And these seem like small bugs that can be easily fixed, and I hope they do. They still have 2 weeks before the release date. But if they don't, it's kind of a big deal because it messes with the whole ranked progression. But you all want to know about the game's netcode, right? Well, testing the online before a game's release is always tough, so I'll walk you through what I did and give you the results. It was pretty extensive. You guys know Rinnigan, right? Friend of the channel, edits videos. He used to live stream, but now because we don't have enough premium bushes, I can't pay him to do that anymore. Go premium, goddammit! Anyway, we made a lobby, we played together, and it felt great. It was like playing a local match. It felt no delay at all. That said, we live pretty close to each other, so that wasn't much of a test. So we decided to start straining our internet connection. I started downloading some very legal torrents, while he unplugged his console and connected via Wi-Fi not to his router, but to his phone, which in turn connected via Wi-Fi to his router. Do you understand the nightmare of a connection that this is? The PlayStation is connected to the phone, which is connected to the Wi-Fi. At first, we couldn't play. The game kicked us out twice during the intro, but after those 2 attempts, it was flawless again. Just like when he was playing via wired Ethernet. No hitches, no delay, nothing. The game just powered through that. And then, the best possible thing happened. We found another player online. I went to Twitter to try to find him, and this guy confirmed that he was playing in Florida through Wi-Fi. I live in Portugal, for those who don't know. So this was a cross-continent match with one of the players on Wi-Fi. And again, it was flawless. The character intro stutters a bit at the start, but by the time the actual match begins, all of that is gone, and we didn't stop there. Rinnigan also played him while he had this Wi-Fi hotspot setup. So there's a guy in Portugal connected via Wi-Fi to his phone, which is connected via Wi-Fi to his router, playing against a dude in Florida, also using Wi-Fi, and the game still powers through that like it's nothing. This is not only great, this might be the best thing I've ever seen. This game's netcode survived everything we threw at it. That said, it all comes with a caveat. The game isn't out yet. The servers are not full of people. This whole thing could very well come crashing down at launch, but from my research at this point, the netcode is incredibly solid. Outside of story mode and online, there are a few extra activities you can do offline. In the practice menu, you'll have 2 offline modes, survival and the covers challenge. In survival, you pick a character and fight a random opponent until you die. The difficulty can change from fight to fight. You regenerate a bit of health, but not all of it. Your valor level carries over from one fight to the next, but sometimes you might lose a star depending on how the fight goes. And then you just keep going and try to set a new record. The covers challenge has you fighting a bunch of weaker enemies. It's like an arena brawler, and you can choose to kill as many as you can in 1 minute, kill 100 units as fast as you can, or go for as long as you can survive. Choose your character, try to set some new records. These types of game modes for me end up being a bit too repetitive to give the game any sort of longevity. They're a nice extra to have, but they're not necessarily a selling point. However, this game does give you some objectives, some unlockables that motivate you to clear some of these modes, or at least play them. There's a gallery, and most of the stuff you unlock in the gallery can be unlocked with in-game currency that you get from playing story mode online or pretty much anything. This includes the game's soundtrack, voice lines from all the characters, and then we have the digital figures. Here, you can choose a character, make them strike a pose and change their facial expression. You can move the camera around, take as many screenshots as you want with different backgrounds. And this is where some of the characters are locked behind the covers or the survival challenge. You have to play as Ragio in survival to unlock her in this diorama mode, for instance. That said, you do unlock those pretty fast, so these game modes really feel like extras and not one of the main selling points. Finally, practice modes in fighting games are always essential to have. I'm happy to report, this game does have a practice mode. You can set up a few conditions, you can lab combos pretty easily, though the control you have over the AI isn't really the best. You can set them to do certain action loops like dashing forward, dashing backwards, trying to attack, but that's kind of it. Unless you have another player who can pick up a controller and help you with practice mode, you cannot record actions, you cannot even set the opponent to permanently block. They're gonna be blocking on this action loop and stop blocking once in a while. You cannot set them to react to stuff like, hey, try to block and then attack. So if you want to practice specific scenarios, it might not always be possible to do that, but it does give you enough freedom on choosing how much meter you want to start with, how much valor do you want to start with. So you will be able to lab some tech from here, but you won't be able to practice specific scenarios that you might be struggling with online or when playing against certain characters. And now that you know my thoughts on the game, it's time to give it a score. If you're new here, welcome. We use letters for our review scores. F and E are for the bad games, D and C are mediocre or just okay, B and A are the good games. And this is my score for Kill la Kill the game, IF. This game is a new staple of the genre. When so many fans had given up on anime arena fighters, here comes A+ with Arc System Works to show the big studios how it's done. It's a ton of fun to play, it's competitive, it's got character variety, it's got a good story mode, and the online seems solid as well. My little pet peeves mentioned throughout the review mean nothing next to what this game accomplishes. It is an impressive feat. But enough about me, what do you guys think? Have you played the game yet? Maybe the demo? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That way, if someone is trying to make an informed purchasing decision, not only do they have my opinion, they can read yours as well. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Boy.